Hello, hello, and welcome to another weekly reading. I hope the shadows are not too tricky as we film today because I'm filming it on Sunday evening as I will be away tomorrow. So I've brought in some Airx for us to do some deep breathing and some in tune so that we can get grounded and focused as oils go. And a lot of the reason that I'm feeling these two energies is the eclipse. This week is not the eclipse week, but we are feeling this week nonetheless the eclipse that we've just experienced in Libra. And it's also the gap of the time between the last eclipse and the next eclipse. So the work we do in this week to integrate and process what's gone on for us through that Libra eclipse, where there was a lot of need to release certain emotional baggage, especially where relationships are concerned, remembering that there are many, many different kinds of relationships. We're kind of in relationship with everything and everyone all the time. So it's an important theme in our lives. And the better that we can kind of just land in what we needed to understand and learn from that eclipse, and it will make it easier for us to experience the next one. What I was just going to say, though, that I think is really important to note, and I've seen this coming up with some of my clients, and I know that it can be a big thing for myself as well, is the desire to get too much done in any one astrological thing, like in one eclipse or in one whatever it may be. And the real truth is there will be another cycle of something for you to work with if you don't get it all done in this one. It's impossible for us to get everything done at once. A lot of these journeys are long processes. I've also brought in some selenite, which is, a moon crystal. Oh, that has just zoomed us in. There we go. A moon crystal, a very intuitive crystal, and this beautiful heart, which is really, it's a Shattuckite heart, and it's really been just feeling really important. I've been working very strongly with this, and I am actually going to move this shortly to our one card. So this week it's mainly for me, I really feel about dealing with the eclipse, especially because the moon's going to move out of Libra where it had the eclipse and into Scorpio, where we do some deep, oh, there goes the oil, some deep processing. Maybe we should do some roly-polies while we breathe. Seems like that's the message. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is that at the very end of the week, Mercury is moving into Scorpio as well. And all the planets are going to start popping into Scorpio quite soon. So the moon sort of leads the way. Actually, we've already got Mars there. Mars led the way, and then we will have moon, and then Mercury's going to pop in, then the sun's arriving, so it goes. Venus will be catching up. So there'll be a lot of Scorpio energy coming through. So this week is also kind of giving us a good opportunity as we start with the emotional moon coming off the back of an eclipse to go deeper and process what needs processing. And Scorpio rules the rectum, so it's also about like, now let's release what we decided we need to release. Don't backtrack and hang on. And here's our weekly reading. Remember to choose a number between 1 and 4. And the card that you pick, or the cards that you pick, if you choose more than one, are your particularly strong messages for the week. It is a general reading. If you're wanting something more specific and precise to you, then you can easily get in touch. My links will be below. Let's jump in. Ta-da! Now, this is quite a powerful week. It is primarily swordsy, and swords is air, and Libra is air. So we are very up in the air with what we have to deal with. And then we have the one cup card, and it's almost as if in this card she is coming up for air. So, well, that one really is catching the light. But anyway, oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to start with the Knight of Swords. And this is also interesting because we have two court cards, the Knight and the King. And then our last one is the Three of Swords. And this is actually where I really felt called to move the crystal, because this is going to do some deep soothing and calming of this card. And it's been coming up for us quite a lot. So I think this is a very important energy for us. And actually, even just looking how I'm kind of jumping around a little bit more than usual, because I think that energy is a little ungrounded right now. And I gave us that grounding oil. We do need to do our grounding practices, but I feel like maybe that's because we've kind of been thrust into something through this eclipse. So personally, it's been a big eclipse for me, and I'd love to know how you found this eclipse in the comments. So the Knight of Swords is a swift acting chap, and he wants to go and get things done. He's pretty decisive, especially when he's the right way up. He's decisive, he's on the ball, he knows there's somewhere he's got to be that knight in shining armor, to go and save the day, to go and get something done. He's pretty focused in that momentum. And quite frankly, eclipses are big, sudden turning points, oftentimes. There are also, it depends where they fall in your own chart, because there are some places where it will be much more obvious and overt, and other times where you might look back and go, it was that one or two little things that happened at that point that actually made a huge difference, but I didn't realize it at the time. That can also be an eclipse kind of response. But oftentimes it is very quick. So this is also where our knight jumping to action is like suddenly he's realized where the dragon is that he has to fight. And I hate to use that as an example, because I actually love dragons, and I don't feel like we should be fighting dragons. I feel like they are our friends. Actually, on that note, I just brought up my dragon deck, because I work with dragons particularly strongly in eclipses, and as they've clearly come into my mind, I'm going to pause this and draw us a dragon card. One moment, please. And there he is, the fire dragon, which is so awesome, because our opposite energy to Libra is Aries, and that is like fire dragon stuff. And it says, burn up the lower energies around you. You are safe and protected. Be determined and inspired. Clear your soul pathway. So this comes back to what I said earlier about, as we've just finished this eclipse and coming into the Scorpionic energy, a reminder to do the work, to let go of, to release what you knew you needed to release, or what you've been shown you need to release, rather than that choice of, oh, it wasn't that bad. I'm sure, let me rather just carry on as I am. The energy right now is, do not just carry on as you are. Do not. That is very strong. So actually, I'm going to put him over here. And he is the direction that the knight is running, because the knight is going to help fight with the dragon, not fight the dragon. So that knight is off to help us burn away and slash away those old things in relationships that aren't working. So very, very much because of all this air could also be like, I've been thinking that you should do this and this in relationships, you know, where you're with that mentality. I think that this is how you should be within our relationship, or I think this is how I should be within our relationship, or anything that brings in a thought pattern. Those are very likely the big spaces that you can shift. And Venus is ruling this and the next eclipse. And she's in Virgo, where she has a very strong editing function. So edit the thinking. Go into your brain, hear what you're saying. And really, I'm not joking, we don't always hear what we're saying in our heads. We just think it over and over and over and over again without being very conscious and cognizant. So go in there and hear what you keep repeating and ask yourself, is this useful? And if it isn't, cut it out. Literally, take these swords and slash. Because the Nine of Cups is such a beautiful card, it's telling us that we are being gifted with something better. And it's an emotional focus, cups. It's the element of water. It's golden. Golden cards in the tarot are always very lucky. And you can see she's found the treasure, and she's rising to the surface, floating to the surface. It almost looks like the sun is under the sea kind of thing, because she's so filled with this treasure. And she's kind of done a bit of a scorpionic journey into the underworld, deep below the oceans, or the land of Neptune, whichever way you want to see it. And she's found some real gems there, but she had to go down first. Now she's on her way, you know, she's floating up, she's on the rise. I guess that could be a guy as well. Anyway, obviously it's not really important about the gender. You'd swear Mercury was retrograde with all my wobbling off in different directions with all these air cards in the reading. Okay, and then we have the king, and he's obviously the more mature version of the knight in many ways. So where the knight is very swift and intelligent, but really fast moving, decisive, action oriented,
there's a little bit more stability with the king. He's very logical and reasonable. He's definitely more spiritually connected, or connected to his sense of spirituality, whatever that is. You can see the crow's on the fly with the knight, and the crow is sitting pensively with the raven with the king. And even that speaks volumes, because in many of these, they all have ravens or crows, whichever one you want to see it as, in the sword's suit in this particular deck. And always recognizing how they're acting and reacting is important. He's also got the bat, which links to night, and the owl, which links to night. So he's bringing in also wisdom and deeper intuitive space, the nighttime, the deeper unconscious realms, you know. And you can see he's very relaxed. He's got his sword, but he doesn't look ready to use it. So he only uses it when he needs to. But slicing, swords are double-edged, and slicing away those things that no longer serve is very, again, we come back to the editing function that Virgo Venus has, to cut away what is not important right now, to use that wisely, and to feel more centered. And he, as air goes, he's a pretty grounded guy, the king. Once you reach the king, there is a level of emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, and groundedness that has been cultivated. You know, I mean, if we're not doing the work, we don't get to be that king. And this is obviously, the knight and the king tend to have more masculine dominance. And so we would be looking at the masculine within us, or males in our lives, younger for the knight, older for the king. But it's really, those are parts within us all. And it doesn't have to be the masculine. It can also be the masculine aspects within the feminine. So it doesn't have to be a man or a woman. It can go much more, it can be subtle. So pay attention to that. What feels right for me? Start paying attention to those intuitive hits. And then, of course, we have the Three of Swords, which has been coming up again and again and again for us. And I think, this is a relational moon eclipse. So, and it is the first Libra eclipse of the series. We are going to have 2 more Libra eclipses in the next year and a bit. So we really are not done with this work right now. It is a process whilst we're in this eclipse axis. And I always say of this card, if you've been watching my readings for a while, you'll hear it again, but this is where we can't really discern between heart and mind, when we hit this place of deep grief or mourning, because it is an air card, which means it is a thinking card. I've decided my heart is broken, but I can't feel anything but my broken heart, because it is a visceral feeling. I mean, we can't even take away from the body here. It's mind, heart, body, all. When we are in those deep, deep grief states, you can't distinguish between your thinking, your feeling, your body. It just all comes together in this awful feeling pain. But for anybody who's ever lost somebody, whether that is to death, to the end of a relationship, to whatever it may be, anybody who's ever mourned through something and had that dark night of the soul, you come out of that with new strength, with new understanding, with a deeper awareness of self, especially if you do the feeling, if you actually feel all of it, if you lament and grieve and howl and rage and go to all those places as those feelings arise. When you come out the other side, you are cleared, kind of as if you've had a fire dragon come to visit and just burn away all of that heavy blue, all of that heavy gray. But it's interesting to me that this comes at the end of a reading, because I feel like all this promise is also saying to us, we've got to carry that on. We can't just think that we reach the end of a process and we are done with that. It's continuous. It's circuitous. Everything spirals back round. It spirals in and it spirals out. It spirals upwards. So you might think you're done with some journey, but it's just a higher turn of the spiral that you'll come back to learning that lesson. We're never done. This is part of the human experience. And instead of feeling like we're failing, or we're learning too slowly, or what is wrong with me? Here I am again. Recognize it as perfectly normal, not always comfortable, but perfectly normal, and in fact, healthy. It is healthier to get to an awful place where you are grieving and raging and just not feeling great than it is to numb and not to experience anything that you're feeling. That is less healthy. So if you are in a deep feeling phase, I'm sending you love because I get that. I get it deeply. But you're doing great. You're doing better than you think you are. If you can access those deep feelings, call upon a fire dragon and ask them to just help you burn away. As I say, I work very strongly with dragons, especially in this portal. It's funny, I saw the deck, which doesn't usually live here in this cottage that I'm in, and I just brought it here today. And I thought maybe I should draw a dragon card. And then I went, no, let me not complicate the reading with another deck and another card. And then, of course, the dragon was calling to me because it needed to be shared. So here's our fire dragon helping us to ignite the new sparks for the new relational dynamic that we'll step into once we have shed some of this old stuff. Once we have cried and bled and shed those tears, then we will be able to mature our inner airy masculine, move with our knight, and even mature into the king and be grateful. This Nine of Cups is just be grateful. Be in gratitude all the time. When you're crying, when you're laughing, when you're loving, when you're hating, just try to be in gratitude. Okay, that's me for the week. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I look forward to the weekly reading coming back to you with the next week's weekly reading. I am available for private sessions and readings of all different kinds. Check out the link below, and thank you for your time.